Jesus of Montreal is not exactly a Jesus film, but rather a film about a passion play commissioned by the priest of a pilgrimage shrine in Montreal. The new play's author and lead actor, Daniel, incorporates new historical Jesus aspects into the work, causing it to be shut down by the church. During its last performance, Daniel accidentally receives a fatal blow, and in his last hours on earth becomes more and more like the subject of his play. In the article assigned for this week, Fraser discusses Montreal in terms of the three cityscape scenes in which we see a skyline montage accompanied by synthesizer music. First, after the actors agree to leave their commercial jobs to join Daniel's passion. Then after Father Leclerc threatens Daniel that he might have to shut down the play. And finally, when Mireille leaves the discussion with the lawyer to form a theater troupe, although note that the music here is somewhat different. Taken together, these urban vistas are visual clues that trigger reflections on artistic integrity over against the pressures of commercialization. I might add that a similar point is made in the scene between Daniel and the lawyer, as they talk about Daniel's future in the brightly lit hallway of a skyscraper in front of windows that overlook the city, with no musical soundtrack. Although mountaintop vistas were the geography of gods in the ancient tradition, dominating views of a city from above are here captured and displayed by corporations housed in tall, slick buildings seeking to profit from successful artistic enterprises. The urban landscape, then, functions as a kind of backdrop against which the characters in the film contemplate their deepest motivations and true soul. But to stop here, as Fraser does, is only to make half the point about a film with a specific city named in its title. Arcand's point isn't simply about a city, but rather a specific city. His film highlights some of the particularities of Montreal in the late 1980s and wraps the theme of artistic integrity together with cultural integrity, specifically the French Catholic Québécois culture of the province. Quebec is a geography that's always struggled with cultural imperialism. Although French has always been one of the two official languages in Canada, such policies belie the fact that the province has long struggled to maintain its distinct identity. The history of Quebec is a history of foreign empires staking claim to the land while having little concern for the preservation of its culture. Claimed as New France with a cross planted by Jacques Cartier in 1534, Quebec became a British territory in the Treaty of Paris in 1763. During the Revolutionary War, Americans attempted to liberate the French population from their English rulers, but England retained control. In 1867, Quebec became an official province of the Dominion of Canada, a nation that was itself still a colony of England, and its French Catholic majority continued to be dominated by English Protestants. Bookending the filming of Jesus of Montreal, the province voted on whether to secede from Canada, with 59.56% saying no in 1980, dropping to 50.58% saying no in 1995. Significantly, Quebec's motto is Je me souviens, I remember. Quebec's political struggles to preserve its language and identity are now also fought in the intellectual arena, and invading armies have been replaced by a popular culture that is English-speaking and American-produced. Even with the nationally subsidized film industry and Canadian content standards, one recent study claims that 90% of the times that films run in Canadian theaters is taken up by American imports. Arcand's emphasis that artists preserve their art from crass commercialization is also a call about the dangers of cultural loss. And here you might want to remember that the Fraser reading tells us that to pay the bills before his films became successful, Arcand made television advertisements. And this is exactly where Arcand also brings the church into play. Secularization has always been a strong force in Quebec since the 1960s, but even though Arcand levels many strong critiques against the institution, he portrays the church as a partial antidote to the forces of modern commercialization, forces whose profit also often comes at the price of the devaluation of humanity. For example, the character of Father Leclerc clearly is ambiguous. He's abandoned his vows of chastity and soon reveals that all he really wanted to be was an actor. After viewing Daniel's new Passion play, he gives into his board of trustees and disallows any further performances of the production that claims Christ to be the natural son of a Roman soldier. And when he and the trustees disallow Daniel's version of the play, preferring the troupe to return to the older version, he inadvertently causes Daniel's death. When the police come to shut down the show, Daniel receives his fatal injuries. But Arcan also mixes his criticism of the church with a good deal of charity. As opposed to the overly bright world of advertising and businesses where people are valued simply for their physical assets, Arcan bathes the church scenes in this warm beige light and reminds us that the church cares for the forsaken. Indeed, Leclerc's invitation that Daniel rewrite the Passion play is the trigger that liberates several actors from jobs that place profits over the human and artistic spirit. Before Daniel calls them, Martin dubs porn movies in which no one will notice if he reads the parts of two different men in the same scene. And when the Passion play is cancelled, Mirai summarizes the arc of her career. Notice that here she's placed against the backdrop of the city.
Quand vous êtes venu me chercher, moi je montrais mon cul pour faire vendre de la lessive ou de la bière. Et tout le monde était persuadé, y compris et surtout le mec avec qui j'étais, que c'était ce que j'avais mieux à faire, étant donné la qualité du cul en question. Le pire, c'est que moi aussi j'en étais à moitié convaincue. C'est vous qui m'avez sauvée de là, vous n'avez pas le droit de me lâcher. Vous savez pas comment j'étais. Mon idée du paradis à moi, c'était la plage de Bora Bora. Des mecs qui portaient pas de Rolex ou qui roulaient pas en BMW, j'en rencontrais jamais. Je pensais pas que ça existait encore un homme qui voudrait pas d'abord me sauter.
Justement, je voulais te parler de ce sujet-là.
Non, mais c'est vrai, c'est précieux ce qu'on a. Faut continuer.
The church's Passion play gave her back her own self-worth, based on more than the physical attributes upon which contemporary advertising depends. And notice that, at the very end, she's the only one who rejects creating a profit-making theater company to honor Daniel's memory. We see the inversion of Martin and Mirai's salvation with Arcan's story of another actor who does not benefit from the influence of the church via the Passion Play project. The Fraser article is helpful on this point. When the curtain falls on the production that opens the film, the first response we hear from the appreciative audience is, "I want his head," said by the woman directing the cologne advertisement. At the end of the movie, Daniel sees the same head on an ad posted on the subway wall and, in response, throws up. The unnamed actor who does not join with the Passion troupe comes to bear witness to the contemporary forces of commodification, unmoderated by a spiritual construal of humanity. In an industry that comes up with lines such as, "We worship beer," the world of advertising can only see human beings as disembodied consumers, buying products flogged by disembodied and unnamed actors able to venerate only what they can buy. Clearly, Arcan views the church as seriously flawed, but it also preserves something of great value and in great peril: the preservation of humanness. With the artists who strive to maintain their artistic integrity, the church also fights the same forces of modern commercialization and cultural annihilation in the context of Montreal at the end of the 1980s.